Hello and welcome to Life Stories with me, Des Tong. My guest on this week's show is the songwriter and saxophonist from arguably one of the most well-known and successful bands to come from Birmingham. Welcome, Brian Travers.
Hello, Des. Nice to be here.
Great
nice
to
to
see
be
you.
at
Great to see you,
BCTV.
That band, of course, is UB40.
Yeah.
And we'll get to them in a moment.
Of course.
I want to go right back. Okay. So,
It's a long time.
born in Balsall Heath?
No, I was born in Birmingham. Through an Irish family. I went to school in Balsall Heath,
Right.
Moseley Road School of Art, and I went to school in Hall Green as a little boy.
Okay.
My mum lived over there, and I've always lived in Birmingham. Over all these years, we've had houses around the world. I mean, we've been very lucky, but Birmingham's always been home. We've always maintained a home here, and my kids went to school in Birmingham. They're proud Brummies, and
As are you.
yeah, I am, I suppose.
Often
yeah.
you sort of going banging on about the Birmingham.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, there's no place like home, as you know yourself from your touring.
Absolutely.
And stuff,
So, and then you went to Moseley School of Art.
The Moseley Road School of Art, yeah. I went at 11 years old, a very special school. It's in the middle of Balsall Heath on the Moseley Road, opposite the swimming baths. And you took an art exam to go there. You didn't have to pass your 11 plus. The younger viewers won't have heard of. It was when you went to senior school, went to high school. Yeah. You didn't have to pass. I did, as it happened. I mean, and but you took an art exam. So if you were the kid in class who could draw the best, I suppose, you know, then you get a shot at this school. And it was an incredible experience. The teachers were all artists, apart from a few disciplinarians that we had, you know, the academic teachers. But, you know, it was a wonderful school and a wonderful experience. I wish I'd understood that at the time, you know, but we never do.
Say that, don't we?
It's wasted on kids' education, isn't it? And, and we studied art every day, except we didn't study music, which is kind of strange, you know, the most abstract of all the art forms. We didn't study music.
But don't you find back in those days, you didn't study music? I mean, the school I went to, music was almost like a throwaway.
It was throwaway. It was. I think maybe there was a couple of folk singers who were teachers in the school, artist teachers, and I think so. You know, so the odd occasion they'd have a piano and try and talk about it, but you know, kids were all mental. You know, we were taking none of it in, and and you don't really, do you?
No.
You become a musician when you want to become one, and you get in a room with your mates, and and you spend hours and hours trying to work that thing out, whatever it is, and.
So you're doing art. Why the saxophone for a start?
Well, in the 70s, we left school in 1975, and in Birmingham, like in Manchester, like in Liverpool, all the big industrial cities, there was no work, there was nothing to do. And that's when we decided to start a band, hence UB40, because we were all on the dole, which means unemployment benefits. Number 40. That doesn't exist anymore, nothing. But I've forgotten what you asked me.
Saxophone.
Well, saxophone, yeah. It was a fashionable instrument then. You know, it was like Andy Mackay, and there was Clarence Clemens in the E Street Band.
Yeah.
And most bands had a little horn section. And I never fancied myself as a singer, but I wasn't that confident, you know. I've always been a songwriter, but I wanted to play, you know. I wanted to go on the road, really, and find out what that was about. And we'd never been anywhere. And music has hence taken us everywhere. But saxophone, you didn't have to plug it in. I thought it was a bit sexy. Yeah. I didn't have a clue how difficult the task I was taking on was going to be. I didn't know that a tenor saxophone is not tuned in concert pitch.
No.
It's tuned an octave and a tone of vote. And an alto is in E flat, it's a fourth away. Didn't have a clue, you know, and getting tune a day books. But all of us in UB40, we were all school pals, or guys who lived around the school. You know, so when we'd knock about of a night playing football and, you know, just looking at girls and learning how to smoke and things like that. That was all our pals. And we all started together. So we'd left school, so we treated it like a job. We'd start at 9 o'clock every morning. Me and Earl, the bass player, lived in bedsit flats on Trafalgar Road in Moseley. And we picked the place specifically, a big old Victorian house. And it had a cellar that now it had been turned into apartments. You couldn't get to from the inside. And it had steps down the outside from the back garden. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we boarded it up, and that was it. And there was a biker who lived in the bedsit above or the apartment above, and we nicked his electric from underneath. And he knew, and he was a great guy. He was a proper biker guy, you know, and he was a really sweet guy, helped us out. And we practiced every day, and we'd play records, and we'd learn to try to find the notes in the records, and help each other out. And so, you know, it went as fast as our lowest common denominator.
So you didn't have any formal training?
No, not at all, but we love music.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine,
you don't need it when
a
you
better
love it.
training than
That's
actually
right.
really loving music. And
Yeah.
it was everything to us. It was to us all when we were kids. In the past, I think it's taken a few steps down now, maybe, because it's so easily accessible. But,
So what were your influences at that time?
well, being in Borsalleaf and Moseley, there was a lot of West Indian kids, a lot of Jamaican kids. That was our mates, really. You know, we were a very multiracial, multicultural group of lads, but no different from any other group of lads in that neighbourhood.
Yeah.
You know, it's what
Yeah.
we look like. That's what
Yeah.
you look like when you live down there. And I think reggae music and blue beat and rocksteady, and it was very important to Jamaican people. There wasn't a lot on television for Jamaican people in them days. There was Love Thy Neighbour. And that was, you know,
yeah.
do you know? You remember?
Yeah.
And so music was always really important. So in our scene, there was always music. And I think whenever you start a band, if we'd have been listening to heavy rock, we'd have been a rock band. I think you try to emulate your heroes, you know, and the stuff you want to be like the stuff that makes you feel good. And
Sure. Yeah.
so it was all kind of Bob Marley and Prince Buster and Studio One records. We didn't know half of the guys. Half of the stuff was on pre-release records with just white labels. Do you remember those days?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
And we go to a shop called Don Christie's on the Ladypool Road, which was the dub vendor, the reggae shop, and you buy pre-release records. And we did Red Wine. We thought it was a guy, Tony Tribes. Do you know what I mean? And then we finally get a publishing thing. It says N Diamond, and we're thinking, who's N Diamond? You know,
He must love you.
Nobby Diamond. We didn't have a clue. No, we didn't have a clue. Oh yeah, love it. But it was like, you know, we copied the records we listened to, and
Right.
and if we'd have had our way, our first record would have been covers of tunes we loved. We didn't have a great deal of ego about it. We just couldn't believe it was actually 8 of us playing tunes, and people were clapping, you know, and.
Yeah.
Because our little label, which was not far from here, it called Graduate Records in Dudley, which was just a little record shop. But in the 70s, once a punk thing happened, if you weren't independent in a way, you weren't proper, you wasn't real.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? The big labels took a real hit until they realised they'd buy all the little labels, and you know, and they learnt a new ethos, I think, the new, you know, punk mind, you know, that was in music. Anyone can do this, and so we picked reggae. It was the easiest thing.
And the first
You want to
gig-
hear us trying to play at Sad Cafe tunes too? Honestly, you boys could play. You could play when you started the band.
Yeah, sometimes that works against you though.
Well, yeah.
But your first gig you did was at the Hare and Hounds.
At the Hare and Hounds, yeah.
And there's a plaque up there, isn't there?
There is now, yeah. The PRS put a plaque on there about 4 years ago. And some initiative had to commemorate where bands did their first gigs.
Yeah.
And it was a great honour, you know. We turned up, we played, we did an acoustic gig, which we'd never done before.
Yeah.
In 30 years, we'd never played an acoustic gig.
Yeah. We did one in Lee Benson's art gallery in Birmingham.
Of course you did, yeah. That's right, yeah.
First time we'd ever done one as well.
It's
great fun though,
and
isn't
it's
it?
nice, isn't it? Yeah, you have to rethink everything you're playing and use your ears a bit more. And there's no knobs to turn up. And,
No.
Yeah. Great for me being an acoustic player.
Yeah.
You know, I was in my element, but yeah.
So, where have we got to? First album then?
Well, our first record, a guy called Robin Valk, who was on
Robin
BRMB.
Valk,
Robin is still around now doing great stuff.
Yeah.
He's going into rhubarb radio, I understand, to try and shake that around and get things happening. Well, he used to run like a little sessions thing late at night, kind of like John Peel. But he was Birmingham's John Peel.
Right.
And he had the specials on there and the selector, and none of us had made a record. And we went in and did one, and we were so nervous, we were so really more nervous than playing a gig. We were frightened to death. And then Dave Veer at Graduate Records, he's no longer with us sadly, he took us on and put us together with a guy called Bob Lamb. Who was a drummer from the incredible Steve Gibbons band.
Yeah.
And he lived in a little bed seat, and he had an 8-track mixer that he'd bought as a kit and put together. He put it together as a kit thing, you know, and an 8-track tape. And we recorded a record and an album. And at the same time, I mean, we've always been very lucky, I think. And we've always worked hard, gone out and played. You know, we were around this time. We shot off to London to do a gig in the Rock Garden in Covent Garden. Do you remember that? The little club down the stairs, great little club. Yeah. And Chrissy Hines was there, and she was number one in the charts. And she went, "Will you come on tour with me?" I went, "Yeah, of course." You know, and then the record was a hit, and you know, nothing succeeds like success, and it opened the door a little bit, and we had a big album. And
that's an ideal time to stop for the interval.
Thank you.
And we're going to take a little short break, and we'll be back with Brian Travers straight after the break.
Lovely. You're great, man.
Welcome back to Life Stories with me, Des Tong, and my guest, Brian Travers from UB40. So, when we left before, you were just having a hit album.
Just starting off.
How old were you when that happened?
19. We were just kids. And,
so what? How did it feel?
Oh, just like everything, you know. It's like everything we dreamt of, you know, and talked about, and. So it's unfair, really, in some ways. You know, we say to ourselves, God, we've just got this break. There's all these guys who can really play, you know, and they're still looking for that break.
Yeah, but that really doesn't come into it, though, does it? That no. You know, even more so today, that does not come into it. It's right place, right time.
That's right.
Yeah. And actually finding that niche. And that's the one thing I got to say that I've always admired about you guys is you found that niche and you kept it. You know,
well, we stuck to what we do. We haven't tried to be much other than that. You know, it's we kind of had an ethos. You know, do it. It isn't laziness, but it's do what's easiest because we'll be able to do that 100%. You know, in a band of musicians, some guys fly through the clouds the first time they pick up a guitar, and other guys struggle. You know, they really mean it. And as long as you mean it, you know, as long as you do it with you know, with real meaning, with real sincerity, and I think the audience shows. Can always tell that anyway. They're not fools. No. Anybody who thinks the audience is stupid, they've lost it. You know. And we had a hit record and had 3 or 4 hits off our first album, and the album went massive, and it went massive everywhere, all around the world. So, and we'd never been anywhere. We just like lads in Manchester, lads in Birmingham, and music took us off, and it gave us our love of touring. I think because we were so excited to be going to places. I can remember being excited going to Belgium. You know, I'd never been to Belgium because we've been to France and
I was like that once.
Wow, you know, and I still am. No, everywhere's got something great about it, you know, and it took us everywhere. And I think in the music business more than any, you know, a little bit of success. Nothing succeeds like a bit of success. You get another shot, and if you take it seriously, you get another shot, you know. And we always have. We've always made albums. We've always gone out and toured them. We've always tried to keep it affordable for people. I always felt a little bit like we were getting away with something we shouldn't have been. And do you know what I mean? Keep the prices low. Keep them. And I agree. I still agree. You know. But yeah.
And so you toured with the Pretenders.
Yeah.
So that must have been like. Really cool.
We'd never played on giant PA systems, and when I say giant, we're playing in colleges, and do you know what I mean? Just gone up from playing in nightclubs and bars, you know.
And another name that I spotted as well, Robert Palmer.
Oh, great friend of ours. Sadly, he's gone now. He died a few years ago. Yeah, he was only 54 as well.
Loved Robert Palmer.
Fantastic musician. I'll tell you a good. You'll love it. That was many years later. We shared the same manager, a guy called David Harper. Who, a fantastic guy. He's only ever been in the music business. His first job, he was the stage tech at the Roundhouse in the late 60s. Right. Basically, somebody would come with their combo and he'd go, I'll plug it in there. And the Doors came and played their first gigs outside of the US. And he found a transformer for their combos, because they're carrying their own stuff. Robbie Krieger and them, there's no such thing. Roadies haven't really been invented yet. Do you know what I mean? The Beatles might have had one. But he wasn't called a road, you know. Yeah. And they got on great, and they took him off, and he worked for the rest of the Doors' career around America, mixing them. And when Jim passed away, then Chris Blackwell, who got Island Records, he'd heard of this, roadies are starting to exist now, you know, they're like stars in the firm, you know. And he said, I've got this little band for you to take around Europe and America, 200 gigs, Bob Marley and the Wailers. So then he was their sound guy, road manager, sound guy, mixing the sound on the side of the stage.
Yeah.
You remember them days?
Yeah.
Before there was mixing desks out front. And he's always been in music, and he managed Robert Palmer, and he started managing us in the kind of late 80s. And we became great friends with Robert, made tunes, and we used to take him with us everywhere. We'd take him out, come and sing a few songs. Fantastic guy. We were recording a tune one night, and we did a song called On the Other Hand, a Randy Travers song. He's a real aficionado of music. He'd always have, Robert, he'd always have like 10 cassettes, like, you know, like a wide boy with watches. No, I'm not kidding, he'd have 10 cassettes each time. I've got to play you this, it's a, you know, Yorkshireman, real Yorkshireman.
Yeah.
I've got to play you this, and he'd play tunes. So we're writing a tune, and we're in this studio, just a B-side called Deep End. I'm amazed I can remember it. And we need a middle eight, we're coming up, and our keyboard player is like you, he's opposite Robert's here. You're the keyboard player, so the keyboard's the opposite way around. He went, try this, ba-ba-da-dum-dim-dum-dim. And so, you know, and our keyboard player sounded like a one-man band falling down the stairs. And he played it back to front. He went, no, like, diddle-da-dum-diddle, straight away. And I got it then. I got a really fully invested musician, and he understands the 12 notes, and he understands harmony, and you know, and interval. And incredible guy, lovely guy. We always had a lovely time with him, and he loved food. If his trousers, you know how smart he is. If his trousers got tight, he wouldn't have dinner one night. He'd just sit there looking at it, going, "No, I'm going to have that next time. I'll have that tomorrow." Sweet man, no, lovely man. Yeah.
Tell me about your art.
Wow. So we went to art school. So I've always had a leaning towards art. You know, we ran our own independent label from as soon as we could, really, which was, you know, basically from about our second album. And we had a label, we signed it out to labels, we ended up on Virgin eventually, from CBS to Virgin. So in turn, running our own label, we'd have to run the campaigns and the covers. And quite often we go to an art show and buy a young artist show, you know, so young kids painted 20 pictures. If we were all digging it, we'd buy them and use them for the album cover and posters and single covers. In the albums that look like this, by the way, they were that big bit of real estate to have in your sitting room, in your lounge. And it's meant to be looked at. And those days of like looking at an album cover and finding the secrets that are in there, it was great, wasn't it? And so that's what we do. In turn, I've always kept my hand in art. I directed film for 22 years, making promos and documentaries, always about music. I'm obsessed with music. And as I'm getting older now, I'm getting a little bit more, and as a band isn't quite so in demand as you are when you're a kid, you know, I'm getting more and more time. And I did a show for Lee Benson where you played years ago.
I saw it.
Yeah, well, I was, I don't know. It was he saw a bunch of paintings in a place, said, we'll put them in a show. This show I'm doing now for Havel and Travers, I painted the show a bit since last December. That's been December 2014. I said, yeah, can we call it pop? You know, the pop artists of the 60s, and Andy Warhol and Lichtenstein, Jackson Pollock.
It's got to be one of your favourites.
Well, of course, yeah. I mean, I went to art school. I can paint figuratively, and it's you know, when Rembrandt was painting a portrait of himself, it takes 6 months at the end of a feather. It's an expensive game. You've got to have somebody paying for that. I wanted to paint a show that I was hoping, you know, that younger people, you know, from my age down, could understand. So it's kind of abstract art for the comic book generation, and I tried to limit myself to a palette of the kind of colours you get in DC Comics, and very primary, early colours, and it's all a bit deconstructed. And, you know, and a nod of that to kids who paint in the street, you know. So these kids are doing it, and they're criminalised for doing it. Some of them are criminals. They're vandals, you know, but 99% of these guys really believe in the expression what they're doing.
Absolutely.
And they get criminalised for it, and they're not surrendering. They're still doing it, and they're paying for this themselves.
So, time's catching up with us. And there's so much
too much for this show.
There's another show here.
We're never going to do 36 years in one show. It's just not going to work.
So you've got, UB40 had a new album out, Getting Over the Storm.
Getting Over the Storm, our love of country music. We love country. I mean, we work with a wonderful guy called Melvin Duffy, a pedal steel player from Brighton. But he's kind of one of the most demand guys in Nashville as well. It's just a sweet, it's lovely he's playing. You know. Give us an opportunity to just go there after all these years. It's still reggae. It's out of reggae, but they were the country hits. We did an album was named after George Jones. It's Getting Over the Storm. I just love that. I love that succinctness of writing. It's poor people's music, I feel. You know, it's like giving the news. There's no fantasy in there. You know, it's you know the old cliche. My dog's dead, my wife's left me, and it really is. But it's songs for blokes to cry about in a way, for guys to cry about, and it was a real great trip doing that. And we've been touring it all year. We had incredible response to it. We had a single out called Blue Eyes, which was Nelson.
Ricky Nelson?
No, the other one.
Willie Nelson.
Willie Nelson, excuse me. It's been a long day. I'm doing an art show. You wouldn't believe how many things I have to do. Willie Nelson, who's another incredible character for music. We were on a truck stop in America maybe 20 years ago. So at 4 in the morning, and you know, the driver stopped and used the toilet and get something to eat. And the door goes, and this cowboy guy gets on. And me and Robin in the band knew who he was. We would dig Willie Nelson. And Willie Nelson gets on. And the door goes. And this old cowboy guy gets on with his hair in plaits. It's Willie Nelson.
So my thanks go to Brian for sharing his life.
Thanks, guys.
And tune in again when we'll be meeting another great character from the musicians and entertainers from the Midlands. So my name's Des Tong, and thank you for watching.